Hello, my name is Oswald Chasi, and I'll be talking about my graduate research project. And of course, this is for Dr. Diane Sanchez, and I'll be talking about Honda Motor, their rising, their reputation, the good and bad, uh, restructuring, the road ahead, and my recommendation. So, in my introduction, Honda Motor was established in 1967 in Seoul, Korea. But they entered the US market in 1986. And I remember that they only had just one model, the Hyundai Excel. I remember that because I used to own one. Uh, so today, Hyundai is one of the well-known and advanced automobile manufacturers in the world. They actually have 8 operations in 8 countries. And Hyundai is considered the fifth largest companies in the world. But just like any other auto manufacturer, you have your share of problems, and this is what has happened to Hyundai in the past. From vehicle recalls, which is still happening uh, uh, as of right now. And of course, they've been fined, numerous times with the United States government, and due to some issues like, gas emissions, deceptive practice. So I'm going to be talking about the rise, what they have accomplished, and I'm only going to be talking, zoning in on not from 1967, but just from since 2010. So that's why I'm going to start right there. As I say that they have 8 operations, okay, in 8 countries, and these countries are the Czech Republic, China, Brazil, uh, India, Turkey, Russia, UK, and of course the good old USA. There's also a possibility that they could be opening one in Pakistan. And of course, their largest integrated auto factory, the world largest integrated auto factory, is actually found in their hometown, where Honda originated, which is in Ulsan, South Korea. What was unique about the Ulsan, South Korea plant in 2010? What exactly was unique? Okay, and I'm going to go through just a few things here why it was considered one of the unique plant. They had 24-hour operations, and actually they used to call that the Global Command and Control Center. It kind of looks like the CNN newsroom, in Atlanta. And I think that's how they modeled that. Um, but they had like tons of computer screens and video monitoring and data, flowing back and forth. And they basically had constant surveillance on Honda's operations worldwide. Can you imagine? I mean, just constantly surveilling, what is going on in your operations in these countries that I just mentioned. In fact, the abbreviation they used to call that the GCCC, the GCCC, which was considered a no-go zone. Okay, and the reason being that of how important it was, and how this is where they pretty much had their secrets in there. Okay, so I can imagine why it was a no-go zone, because people can break into or go into companies and steal their data, steal their information, steal their secrets, and particularly we're talking about maybe rivals here. Okay. It is also said that the employees were prohibited from discussing any issue that is in relation to the manufacturing or to the GCCC. Okay. So the question might be, what was the purpose of monitoring the operations 24 hours worldwide? Okay. Uh, and I'm sure that takes money. That's costly. Okay. But in their eyes, Hyundai were under the belief that when you have what they call real time, okay, you can identify problems as they occur. I kind of understand that, that's what I do in my job where, I'm doing when I'm, uh, auditing and it's a real-time situation and basically to see whether we are complying with the United States government and as a company. So it's a real-time situation where that way, when we see what's going on at that point, that can be addressed. Okay, so I can kind of understand where they were coming from with that. And of course, they realized that, like I say, you can fix the problem right there. You don't have to wait until the situation escalate and, years down the road or weeks down the road, you realize that Houston, you have a problem here. Okay. So what was the difference? What is the difference at that point, okay, with the other auto manufacturers? So you can look on here. So Toyota, they base their product on consistency, okay? Meaning, hey, you buy a Toyota, we've always been consistent, and so I assume this is where that comes, from. And then, of course, Honda comes with theirs, which is innovation. Hey, we always up there trying to come up with some new things that can help basically the driver and just to sell our product is one of the most innovation companies. Okay, and then of course Hyundai. When you talk to Hyundai, when you look at Hyundai, theirs is aggressiveness and speed. Well, sometimes aggressiveness and speed can be dangerous depending on maybe how fast you're going. Okay, so we'll see where as we discuss more about Hyundai, see where that aggressiveness and speed, will lead them. So everything was going well for Hyundai. I mean, as you'd say in this, oh, life is good. Life was good. Okay. Because you can look at some of this data here. The sales jumped up 46 percent in previous years. The sales were extremely high in China, and of course, we know that there was so much demand for vehicles in China because of the economy over there doing well. So that means that the people were doing well. Okay. Um, and speed was the name of the game for Hyundai. It was all about speed, right? Let's get these babies out here. Let's get on with this manufacturing, So and so Hyundai became actually the fastest growing automaker in the world. Okay, and at some point even Toyota felt threatened and worried about Hyundai. So this is how good they were doing. As a matter of fact, on my memories flashback, you know, uh, in 1986 when Hyundai, entered the U.S. market, I actually purchased a 1988 gray Excel in 1991, and it did only 10,000 miles, okay, which was, and I bought it for a good price, excited. It smells new, and everything was just like, I mean, that was the car. But then the nightmare started, okay. The car kept dying on me. I'll be stuck on the road, and I'm like, this guy is only 10, 12,000 miles, and I'm having these issues, and I'll take it to mechanics, and they'll say, well, these are some of the worst cars, and you get all that negative, which of course was true, and so that's kind of my experience. Okay. Well, fast forward, and yet in 2010, this is why I say this, 2010. it was one of the most reliable vehicles on the road, the Hyundai product. Okay, and numerous times they will be winning awards as the best cars and all that. So things were going well. Okay, so we can also look at what was what has made them competitive, I guess, and unique with their rivals. What is it that have kept them going? Okay, and of course, when you look at their website, it says that they're number one in customer loyalty 9 years in a row. Okay, not only 1 year, but they say 9 years in a row. Okay, of course, you take it whichever way you want to take that, because I'm sure there's more to that. And of course, one other thing that I'm familiar, they have the best warranty when it comes to just standard cars, right? I mean, they give you 5 years, 60,000 miles, and which is normally you normally find this in luxury cars, but Hyundai do that. And as you know that the standard warranty is 36,000, 3 years, and so they have something good, going here. And of course, good quality and dependability. It's a good product. It's really, it's a good product, depending on how you look at that. Okay, and also they're doing a lot of innovation. Okay, so it's very interesting with them. So let's see at this point. I'm going to be talking about their reputation. Okay, what is it that has been going on? The challenges that they've gone through in the past years and currently uh, as I speak. Okay, so they've had some negative uh, 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 news. Okay, they've had recall issues continue to happen in the United States. As a matter of fact, they were advised recently that they needed to check on about 2.9 million older vehicles. And this was because they say that there's due to fire, to reports about fire that you're finding on those older models. Okay, so just this month, and I'm talking just this month, actually this October, more than 28,000 vehicles have been recalled in Russia. Okay, and then with that, the cost for this recall has amounted to about 440 million uh, recall costs in the third quarter alone. Okay, uh, so you can imagine. I mean, Hyundai, they're thinking they're moving ahead, but when you're trying to move ahead and you have issues coming up, where not only they're coming up, but you're spending tons of money, you can understand why you can pretty much remain stagnant. I mean, because you make production, you sell these cars, and then after a while those cars are, so it's like a cycle here. Okay, and of course the issue about misleading the consumer about the fuel economy and the gas, emissions. We know that, the one that they were actually fined with the United, penalized by the United States government over millions and millions of dollars. Okay, and of course, just like any other business or any other organization, you always have those unforeseen external factors, things that you just don't have any control, right? But when you have a situation like this, when you have things, the fire that you're trying to extinguish, right? And then you have factors that you can control, then it just makes it a very, very difficult situation to move ahead. And of course, their stocks, they continue to tumble. Okay, and it's just not in some in some situations it's not looking good for them. And so now I'm going to be talking about the restructuring. Okay, and I'm going to fast forward now to 2017, where they had an organizational change. Okay, um, they decided, that GCCC model that they had in Seoul, they decided to do away with it. Okay, and instead they decided to give more authority to its regional subsidiaries. Okay, which I think to me was a great move. Okay, and you will understand why as I go through this slide. Okay, and of course during that time the profit continued to slide. Okay, sales continue to drop in various markets, uh, due to some of the things that they have control, some things they don't. Okay, uh, so here's the thing: these other automakers, right? Um, like the Hyundais, I mean the Hondas, the Toyota, and the Nissan. They've been using this model, this of giving authority to their regional subsidiaries. Okay, they've been doing this for a long time. But guess what? Honda is only getting into the game. Okay, so you can see how some of the situations where Honda could do better and they seem like they're trying to catch up. Okay, and many times in business, when you're trying to catch up, it's hard to catch someone. Okay, because just when you think you are, you know, getting to where they are, they take two steps, right? And so you're always going to be behind trying to catch up, right? So in the past, why I said this was a good model. In the past, Hyundai Motor America reported to the global sales division. Okay, um, and it, it, and sorry about that. They reported that to the global sales division, okay, in the Hyundai headquarters, which was in South Korea. And instead of reporting direct to this top executive, they'll be reporting to the global sales division. Okay, so it just doesn't or it didn't make sense then, right? Now, as I continue with the restructuring, okay, um, the manufacturing plants, that's another thing, in subsidiary reported to headquarters and not to the sales subsidiary in their countries, okay? So everything was linked with the headquarters, right? And yet you have the sales, the headquarters in the country where these cars are being, manufactured, but you reporting that in another region. Okay, I mean, who better to know than the organization or the subsidiary that is in that region to know, when to need maybe build more cars or when we need to slow down. But here everything was just linked with the headquarters. Okay. This also meant that Honda Motor Manufacturing plant in Montgomery, okay, that's one of the largest ones also, which is in the U.S. They would get their production orders from, Fountain Valley instead of getting their orders from the headquarters in Seoul. So you can see how that would work, okay? Because the headquarters in Fountain Valley, they would study and see, the sales, and because they are in the environment, they are in that region, so they know it's like they know what is going on in here in the United States than what is going on in Korea, okay? So you can see where, how this thing, why they decided to do that, okay? And then, of course, again, in Hyundai trying to catch up, Hyundai's rivals, they've been in their regions for a long time. Okay. And Hyundai just only started doing that as of last year, right? Um, which was another opportunity that was missed by Hyundai, right? Um, but also, you can imagine why I think maybe as I look into this, why it probably was a difficult task to do because many times in these countries like Asian countries, the businesses are family owned, okay, which was the situation with Hyundai. So it's very difficult to try to give that power, you can say, to to a different region, okay? Because this is a culture where everything is owned by the family. So I'm sure this was a very, very difficult decision, to make, particularly in that in that region. Okay, as a matter of fact, there's a term that is known. It's called chabel or shabel. I don't know how to pronounce that, which means that basically, everything is kind of geared toward the family, family-owned, businesses. So, what is the road ahead? In other words, what is their future plans? Okay. Um, they're talking about they're going to be introducing a pickup called the Santa Cruz, okay, and possibly in the year 2020, okay. But this is again one of those things that Hyundai is only bringing pickups, okay, and particularly in a country like the United States where this is the home of the pickups, right? And their rivals, the Hondas, the Toyotas, and I can even bring the Nissan. I can even bring the, um, you know, what is that? I can even bring Ford. All the cars that you know, or car manufacturers that you know, they have a truck. Okay. So again, another missed opportunity, by Hyundai. Okay. And in this situation, of course, they're trying to make sure that that will bring some growth in their organization, growth in the United States market via trucks. Well, it's already saturated with trucks here, right? And I'm not saying they can't do that, but again, that's where they need to come on and be very, very, competitive, bring a good product, and you can always succeed in the market, you know. Um, and also they're gonna be introducing one called the Hyundai Santro, and possibly, like I say, in Pakistan, which will be a new market for them. So they are thinking that they're gonna be doing that, introducing it via the country of Pakistan. And of course, they will continue to monitor their hybrid, their electric, and their plug-in, hybrid, uh, known as the INOQ, IONIQ. So we'll see how that's going to play. But this is at this time, this is what their future plans is going to be. Now, on a side note, I have to bring this. Okay, the regional structure restructuring has been in place for over a year now. I think it was implemented almost a year ago, last year. And yet, even at this point, they still have issues. So this is going to be very interesting to see how whether this model is playing well, is doing well, is performing the way it was designed to to perform. Okay, which basically meaning to rescue the Honda Corporation. Okay, so here's my recommendation. What I think they need to do. Okay, I think Honda need to bring a lot of build consumer confidence, and that can be done in so many ways. They can offer incentives, kind of referral incentives. If you refer a friend, a relative, and you'll get, like some kind of incentive, like, maybe $500, for that referral that you do. Because at that point, I think then they're standing on their product to say, hey, try our product, okay, and uh, you'll get $500 just for trying it, okay? And we're doing this because we know we have a good product. So I think that would be a good selling point to bring consumer confidence, okay? But they also need to be very, very aggressive in promoting their brand. If it means that they need to raise their standard warranty from what it is in 5 years, 60,000 warranty to maybe um, 7 years and 72, uh, you know, uh, 72,000 warranty, whatever that they need to do. Okay, but they've got to, when you're in a situation like where they are right now, you've got to do anything and everything that you can do in your power. And of course, we know that the stocks hasn't been doing well, so investor confidence is just not good. So just last month in October, their net income dropped by 67%. So, this is some things that they can do to see what they need to do to bring that confidence in the investor. Okay. But I also think that they need to be accountable and to take ownership. Okay. They need to stop blaming everybody or everything on recall. Because when you look at some of the things that I was actually researching, it seems like most of their blaming is centered towards the recalling. Okay, I personally think that they need to take a holistic approach into this situation and really see that what is it that they need to do to turn around. Okay, so sometimes for you to be able to do better, you've got to look at the whole picture, right? Don't just because then when you blame everything on recall, it's easy to overlook some of the flaws or some of the areas where they can improve, right? Because in your mind, you're just thinking, okay, this is all about, the recalling. Okay, they need to really dissect this whole thing to find out where the problem is or where the major issues are. Then so that way they can fix up, which would mean also it might just means that they need to restructure their leadership. Okay, right from the top of the pyramid. Yeah, and I know that sometimes it's a very difficult situation, just like what you see even in these. I know many times we hear that in the United States, where sometimes the leadership has to go because the direction of the company is not going well, right? I mean, when you're a leader, you're the captain. When the ship begins to sink, then you're the one who will take the blame for that. And so I think they really need to look into that. And then they need to also, recruit some top talent. Could be from still some of them from organizations like the Toyotas and the Hondas and even the luxury cars, whatever that they need to do to make sure that they get this thing going. I think that would really, really, help them to do better. And then I think some of the things that they can do in terms of the recommendation, they need to slow down. Okay, remember we talked about aggressive and or speed and all that kind of stuff. Okay, sometimes this thing, yeah, you can be the fastest, you can want to be the fastest to grow, but if your product is not that good, then it just doesn't mean anything. It's all, in my opinion, it's about quality, versus quantity. And I think you can tell by them wanting to be aggressive that can come back and bite you. And I think this is some of the things where they need to slow down. And they need to move their operations into countries where the labor is cheap. Okay, I'm sure if you look at all these 8 operational countries that they have, I bet the labor is very very high. Okay, because what that means is uh, uh, when they move that to other countries where the labor is cheap, they get to cut their production costs, right? And which is a win-win because you're cutting your production costs, and we know that labor is actually the most expensive thing, right? So that will actually help them to do that. And regrettably, uh, they need, I think they need to close some of those operations, okay, in regions where, particularly where labor is expensive, okay. Uh, because when you're in a position like that, like I say, you've got to look at this whole picture holistically, okay. It's very important to do that. That's how you can fix, the problems, okay. But I also think that in addition to that, I mean, they need to tap into other areas. It could be like partnership with, companies like Uber into what is now known as, autonomous vehicles. Okay, this is the wave of the future. Everybody is, it's that's just the direction that we're going. And if you need to have your brand out there to be known and to brag about your brand, then you've got to also aim to do some bigger things. And sometimes you have to take a risk. Okay, and some of those risks, just like that's why it's called a risk. A risk is, sometimes you do well, and sometimes you're going to pay the price. But based on where they are, I think that will be a direction that they, might want to look. Okay. Then they need to revamp their research and development teams. That to me need to go. It's gotta go. Okay. Because there's something that is causing that when they have a product, particularly when you end up having to have in this situation, I talked about all the models, that could be recalled. I mean, this is something is going on. And I think just like what I said, you have to look at the whole picture. And the problem might be from the research and development. Okay, nobody knows, but they've got to be willing to do that. And of course, as you know that the trucks are underrepresented, they need to build more trucks. Just them introducing one truck, the Santa Cruz truck, I don't think that's gonna do the job. Okay, I mean, I'm sure they have their way of why they're doing that, but I just think it's all about visibility. Visibility. They could have maybe brought, introduced a couple of two different trucks, right? Particularly in a country like the United States where it's so saturated with trucks. And so I just think that they need to, to look at things, you know, from that point of view. I mean, talking about trucks, they need to compete. That's another thing. Okay, compete with the big trucks. The Ford F-150, the Nissan Titan. This is all their rivals anyway. Toyota Tundra, Chevy Silverado, the Dodge Rams, the big trucks, and Honda Ridgeline, and again, when they do that, it's a brand exposure. Okay, that's what you need to do. And then, last but not least, I think periodically, I don't know how frequently they do that, but they need to continue to do the SWOT analysis, because then that way that helps them to completely focus and on what they're doing and follow through. Okay, um, if they're doing it once every 6 weeks, once every 6 months, then maybe they need to do it quarterly. Okay, and if they're doing it quarterly, it might mean that they might need to do that every month, particularly when you're in a difficult and situation like that. It just takes a lot, and you have to be willing to do what you can. I hope you enjoyed watching my presentation, and I thank you for watching that. Thank you.